Today's episode of the Vegan Life podcast is brought to you by Vivo Life. Vivo Life are a health and supplements brand who have a brilliant collection of products, from the everyday essentials like B12, D3 and omega-3, which, let's face it, they're must-haves if you're following a plant-based diet, greens and multi-nutrient powders, everyday vegan protein powders, mushroom lattes, and much, much more. Vivo Life make my favorite health supplements, and I love that they're an environmentally conscious company. Not only are they certified carbon neutral, but they also plant a tree for each order, and their health supplements taste and make me feel amazing. And there's not many things I can say that about. If you're looking to fill the gaps in your vegan diet, look no further than Vivo Life's natural, healthy, sustainable supplements. Welcome to the Vegan Life podcast, continuing our world tour of cuisines, and we're off to sunny Spain today, and I'm very excited. Let's meet our absolute top-notch expert chef. Omar Allibhoy is the founder of Tapas Revolution, the critically applauded Spanish tapas restaurant group. He's cooked for countless celebrities, even the royal family. Why they came to a restaurant called Tapas Revolution. I mean, those things don't go too well together, do they? Royal families and revolutions. Omar is the author of 2 cookbooks. His debut book, Tapas Revolution, is still one of the best-selling Spanish cookbooks in the world. And he's won several awards and maintained a career as a successful TV chef. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hola, of course. My brother lives in Madrid. I should be better at Spanish, but...
that's exactly where I come from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had lots of questions in. People are very excited about cooking some Spanish food. And as always,
Great.
You can email us your question on any aspect of vegan cooking to podcast@veganlifemag.com, and we will field it to the best person to answer your question. But let's start with Denise. Denise says, I have 2 questions.
Yep.
Can I have some vegan tapas suggestions, please? And sorry, this is not food related, but I would love a sangria cocktail recipe.
Ooh, I know a good one.
Oh, do you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's my afternoon sorted. Denise says I had a sangria cocktail at a party and it was so bloody fresh. Okay.
Good.
Freshness key. Do you want to start with the tapas or do you want to hit the sangria first?
Let's hit the sangria and get in the mood before we get into the food. So one of the things I would guess Denise hear your podcast from the UK. And as you probably know, because it's a country with a deficit of sun, where most fruit and veg are imported, and as a result they are harvested early while they're still green and not matured. As a result, when they do mature in the supermarket shelves or in your home, it's lacking a little bit of flavor. And sangria, traditionally, it's done by crushing those fruits on the bottom of a jug with some sugar. You add some ice, red wine, then you put a little drizzle of maybe Cointreau or some alcoholic drink like whiskey or rum, and you finish it off with lemonade. The problem when doing that is that because the fruit is missing some flavor, then your sangria won't taste as fresh as you've described it. So my suggestion is that you put some equal amounts of sugar and water in a saucepan, and you bring it up to the boil. So you create a syrup. Yeah. And then you pour this hot syrup into your already chopped up fruit and peeled. And this heat will allow for the essential oils of the fruits to be released and captured in the syrup, which is what then you will go and use for your sangria. All you need to add is your ice, your red wine, your whiskey, rum, whatever you have, and finish it up with your lemonade, and you'll see that your sangria will be at another level.
That is such a top tip. I love that.
Yep. Try it out this summer.
Yeah. I'm going to try that one probably tomorrow.
Good.
Excellent. And
since you are not having a Spanish holidays this year?
No. Well, you know what? Right now I'm in France. So maybe I could nip across the border. It's only a 14-hour drive.
Fair enough. I just came yesterday from Spain, and I have to say there was very few Brits this year.
Yeah.
Very few, very unusual. There was some French and Germans though.
Right.
But not British. And where I go, it's in Denia, in the Levante, where, most of the Brits go, and there was very few. So it just felt a bit odd.
Yeah, you must have been missing your fry-ups and your full English breakfasts.
Yeah, the missing ingredient in the costas.
So to go with this amazing sangria, what tapas would you suggest that's vegan?
So simple things. I mean, I'll give you some simple suggestions and some more, a few more intrinsic concoctions. Mm-hmm. But, my usual padron peppers are really good. Just fry them in a little bit of olive oil and good Maldon salt. Which, for those who don't know, is one of those beautiful British ingredients done in Maldon, and that you buy in any supermarket here in the UK for not even £2 for the little box. And in Spain, we pay €6, and we really appreciate it.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we are big consumers of your salt. In case you didn't know, you do export something.
Amazing. Rip off Spain.
Yeah, there you go. And so that's a nice one. I love my salmorejo, which to me it's the new gazpacho. Okay, It's a bit thicker. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the traditional ingredients that gazpacho has, which are tomato, cucumber, red and green pepper, onion, garlic, and then the olive oil, sherry vinegar, and a little bit of bread and water. Amazing. This has tomato, bread, garlic, sherry vinegar, salt, and plenty of olive oil. So it's a lot thicker, less flavors going on, but incredibly tasty and intense. And that you can just eat it as if it was a soup, even though it's thicker than a gazpacho. Or, you can put it in a glass, directly from a glass, and you just drink it.
That sounds so good.
It is really good.
Because I'm guessing the bread thickens it. It's kind of like that salad where you let the tomatoes and the bread kind of infuse.
Yeah, linger together. And that is the best way of doing it, because as with gazpacho, you should always try to do it with a jug blender. Normally it blends more better, finer than a hand blender.
Right.
And those jug blenders, they have so much power, they warm up the mixes that you put inside. And that's exactly the opposite as what you want from your gazpacho or your salmorejo. You want to retain the freshness of the ingredients. So you do one or two things. You either add ice to the mixture, so that while it blends, it stays cold, or you mash up your tomatoes with the bread and you leave it in the fridge for a day or a few hours so that everything is really cold, and then it doesn't warm up when you blend it, as I said.
These are such good. It's fantastic that your answer with all of this is it's all about the temperature. It's about when you want the flavors to kind of bloom and when you don't.
Completely. And it's really interesting, but when you are in a country like here where most of the food is imported, it really matters. And these tomatoes, what I do at home is I buy the tomatoes way in advance, a week in advance, and I leave them outside of the fridge to let them mature, let them get soft by nature, and then is when I put them in the fridge.
That's a top tip. I find very often, it's only when tomatoes are kind of reduced for clearance in supermarkets that they are coming anywhere near being properly ripe.
Correct. No. You other than fish, you should. That's where you should be shopping in the clearance section. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, that's a top tip, and also sounds like a really good base for some kind of Bloody Mary cocktail event.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what else can I offer? What's on the menu? Some vegan tapas. Something a bit more intrinsic, maybe that you can cook. Some maybe stuffed courgettes. We like, it's a very Mediterranean vegetable, so we grow a lot of them in Spain.
Yeah.
And, we do like a little bit like a ratatouille, where you scoop out the flesh of your courgette and you saute it with onion, garlic, red peppers, green peppers, some aubergines as well. And then we put some cumin powder. Yeah. That's one of the important spices. A bit of sweet smoked paprika, which has to be Spanish, and I tell you why in a minute. And then you add your tomatoes, and then you cook it slowly. You fill up the courgettes, bake them in the oven. You can put some cheese or some breadcrumbs, if you like, on top, so that it gratins and gets a bit crispy. Nice. And they are a fantastic tapa as well.
That's a top tip. Now, why does it need to be Spanish smoked paprika?
Because paprikas are done all over the world, in China, in Hungary, in Argentina. But what makes a difference with the Spanish is that most of those paprikas are sun-dried. So they harvest the peppers, lay them down in the floor, and let them dry under the sun. So it becomes a sweet grinded pepper. What we do in Spain is we build these smoke houses where there is the ground floor and the first floor, and there is a mesh that divides the two floors. And we lay the peppers on the first floor, and then we turn on the chimney with burning oak on the ground, and we let those peppers dehydrate under smoke for 2 weeks. Wow. We stir them every 8 hours to make sure it all dries out evenly, and then we grind those peppers, dried peppers, into a powder. And it's just a huge difference in taste. And that's why a lot of Spanish foods, like maybe paella, which I think you want to talk about later,
yes,
or the famous chorizo, the Spanish sausage, it tastes very smoky, because it's not about smoking the products, it's the paprika that is smoked.
Okay. Is there a particular brand that you particularly like?
No, they are all good, I have to say. They're all quite good in supermarkets. Okay. But if you buy a white label from any supermarket, Waitrose, Tesco, whatever, just make sure that it says sweet smoked paprika.
Top tip.
Yeah.
On the gazpacho soup, and I know I pronounced that so badly, I'm sorry.
No, you did it very well.
Gazpacho?
Gazpacho, perfect.
Gazpacho. Galina emailed us to say, should I cook it ahead of time to let the flavors infuse, or can you make it on the night you want to eat it?
You can either or, but if you can do it the day before, at least, even better. For those flavors to infuse, but as well, I'll give you that extra tip that will make all the difference. You probably notice when you buy tomatoes on the vine and you remove them from the vine itself, the vine is what it actually smells most like tomato, not the actual tomatoes.
Yeah, I love the smell of a tomato plant. It's the best smell in the world.
Correct, and I have them at home, but for those who don't, my recommendation is you do your gazpacho, you pour it into a jug, and you add the vines into it. Next day, remove the vine from it after it has infused overnight.
Come on!
And then it's when you serve it, and you will see it is transformational. I promise.
Such a good tip. I love that. That's awesome.
A lot of years of cooking. I've had time to try absolutely everything you can think of.
But that's such a good idea, though. It's one of those things that, I always feel a bit sad. I love the smell of a tomato plant, and, the tomatoes taste great, but that aromatic thing is just so good. And the idea of infusing, now I got to try that. I got to try that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we've come to the point in the podcast where we ask the perennial question. What do you do? What do you do with tofu? Yes, what do you do with tofu? And this is a free pass. You can answer this however you like. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything, really. It's just, if I gave you a block of tofu, what would you do with it?
I would leave it on the shelf.
Food bank. Yeah, okay.
No. I'm not a big tofu fan, I have to say.
Yeah.
But how I like it the most, which tofu would you give me? A silken tofu,
you can have any
smoked
tofu, you please. You can have
whatever.
So
the smoked tofu is quite nice from the supermarket, which is a slightly firmer texture. Yeah. And I would add it to my usual stir fry. So my ex-wife is Canadian from Indonesian background, and her dad cook a fantastic fried rice and show me all the tricks to do it and the ingredients to use. And he used to put the firm smoked tofu inside. So I would do just that. Saute it slightly, make your omelette first in your wok, set it aside, put a bit of your dry sausage if you can, and then you add your veg, your ginger and garlic, put your stale rice or dry rice inside that you've cooked a few hours before, and let it breathe, and that makes it for a great, I think, a great condiment.
There you go. Thank you for
Not very inspirational.
It is.
No, I'm sure I'm not the only one who said that.
No, we've had a few kickbacks on the tofu front, and I'm always bewildered by that. But it's it's good to learn. I'm always the first to tell you that a healthy diet's the most important thing. Am I right, guys? No, but it is. There are some nutrients, though, that can be difficult to get when you're plant-based. That's why I take Vivo Life's vegan vitamin B12, omega-3 and D3 daily. Did you know? It's been reported that 98% of us are not consuming enough omega-3. I would say that's everyone who doesn't have a career as a seal impersonator. I mean, like the aquatic mammal, not the singer guy. Anyway, Vivo Life's omega-3 is made from sustainably grown algae, not fish, so it doesn't harm marine life. And because it comes from algae, it also doesn't contain any of the nasty heavy metals like mercury, which you often find, sadly, in fish. And finally, their omega-3 comes in liquid form, rather than those gigantic capsules. That means the omega-3 is consumed by your body in a more direct way, and it's stronger and more potent than almost any other omega-3. The best thing of all is that I know all of their products are made with natural ingredients I can trust. So if you're interested in trying their plant-based supplements, then you can use my code, VEGANLIFE, all one word, to get 10% off your first purchase on the vivolife.co.uk website. Let's get back to the Spanish food. Sean says, my mum's new partner is Spanish, and when he cooks us paella, there is crispy rice on the bottom of the pan, and it is so Moorish and delicious. I think technically, Sean, you're right. It is literally a Moorish dish invented by the Moors. Anyway, she says the rice is almost caramelized. Do I achieve this by literally just leaving it without stirring it?
So, really interesting. There is two ways of achieving it. One, which is through the natural process of cooking it. Sometimes the ingredients catch a little bit and they start forming while you are cooking the paella and dehydrating the stock that is being absorbed by the rice. And on some occasions that doesn't happen, and what you need to do is to just leave it there for longer. So what happens is in a paella particularly, the olive oil has four fundamental functions, tasks in the rice. So first, it cooks the ingredients that you add to the paella. Mm-hmm. Okay. Second, it infuses with those flavors of the vegetables and the meats, whatever it is that you use for your paella or the seafood. Thirdly, when you put your stock and you add your water, and the water starts dehydrating and being absorbed by the rice, there is a point in where the rice and the stock levels out. And because the oil is always floating on top of the stock, it creates a natural lead on top of the rice. But some filter down as the water levels go down until it completely dehydrates and evaporates. And then the oil will start frying the bottom of the pan and the bottom layer of the rice, and that's what you call socarrat. So that is the answer. That's how you achieve it.
Right. So leaving it, I guess.
Leaving it. Just leaving it. But it's really important that you use all the senses, because obviously it's on the bottom of the pan. So it's hard to judge visually if you're burning the pan or not. So you need to use your sense of aroma, your smell.
Yeah.
Make sure that it doesn't smell like burning. You need to listen to it, because it no longer boils, it starts frying. So the noise changes. So your paella will talk to you and tell you when it's frying. It won't tell you when it's burning. Only your sense of smell will tell you that.
And finally, your eyeballs when smoke starts coming out of the pan. That's definitely too late. That's a good tip. Yeah, because when I cook rice, I just use a basic method of like one part rice, 2 parts water. Yeah. And you just put it in a pan and boil it and kind of forget about it, and it absorbs all the water and it's just done. You don't have to strain it or anything. And sometimes it does start to catch on the bottom of the pan, and I love that. I love that crispy, chewy, almost nutty texture you get. It's so
lovely.
good.
But the problem with a Spanish rice, not the problem, the benefit really, but what makes it the most difficult rice to cook, it's the fact that it's very glutinous.
Right.
Very starchy. Yeah. So what she said about not stirring the pan, that's really important. Otherwise it becomes risotto as opposed to paella. Paella, the grains of rice are very loose.
Yes.
Okay, that is the key. And that you achieve that by not stirring the rice at all. You add your rice, you add your stock, and you let it cook and you let it sit.
So is it the same rice? It's a short grain rice?
It's a short grain or medium grain rice. Yeah, but now in every supermarket you can find good paella rice or Spanish rice, they call it as well.
Yeah.
So don't do paellas with basmati or jasmine or even arborio rice. It'll become very starchy. It needs to be paella rice.
Gotcha. And what would you recommend? Because we've had this question a few times, I think. If you were making a vegan paella, what sort of ingredients would you put in there?
The beauty of paella is that it accepts any ingredient. So you can do it as varied as you like. Nice combinations that I like, I love my green paella, which was my version of the world famous green juice. Said if there is a green juice, why shouldn't there be a green paella?
Sure.
By the way, you can find that recipe and many others on my YouTube channel,
nice.
The Spanish Chef, and you'll see it. And add any green vegetables you like. Peas, baby spinach, courgette, artichokes, you name it, and it's really delicious. I like using butternut squash or some sort of a squash in my paella as well, I have to say. So, sweet potato kind or butternut squash paella makes it a little sweeter.
Yeah.
Cauliflower, I think it's a great ingredient. I know many people hate it, but I love cauliflower in a paella.
Yeah.
So, look, combinations are completely endless and up to you.
Yeah. And I guess, it's that thing of if you're not stirring it, which, as you say, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Then, those more delicate vegetables will kind of sit in place and be okay, won't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, I'll tell you, paella is a beautiful dish, and it's Spain's most famous dish for a reason. But it's really simple to do, and it follows the same principles. Add the harder ingredients to fry first, and the softest later. So what you said, you wouldn't put the peas from the beginning, but you would put your butternut squash. That will take some time to cook and to take some color. But the peas, you'll add them right at the end when there is 5 minutes left of the rice cooking. Yeah. You wouldn't even fry them. Or the baby spinach that I mentioned. So really it's just about timing, when you add your ingredients.
Yeah. Nice. And what are the principal spices for paella?
So you have two key ingredients for paella. One is the saffron, which you need to infuse in the stock that you will use while you prepare the rest of the ingredients and you fry your ingredients. And then the other is the smoked sweet paprika that we were talking about before as well. Those are the two spices that makes paella taste what they taste, and they give that smoky flavor. And then sort of running in order, I'll give you the recipe since we are in the...
You've done everything but, yeah.
Since we are at it, you will fry the harder ingredients first in extra virgin olive oil. And then there is one part that every paella follows, and is that once you fry your ingredients, then you add your garlic, chopped garlic, fry it for 30 seconds, put your sweet paprika, fry it for another 10-15 seconds because it will burn very quickly in the same way as garlic will burn. And then you add your grated tomatoes or your blended tomatoes, and that will stop those two ingredients from burning. It'll deglaze the pan with all the caramelization of the vegetables that you've added at the beginning of your recipe. And then you'll put the stock, and you'll put your infused stock with the saffron, and then you'll add your rice. Cook it 10 minutes on high heat, 10 minutes on low heat, always without stirring the pan. And you will have perfect paellas every time.
Love it. I've got to try it. I'm so glad you mentioned saffron, because our final question comes from Jane, who says, when I've cooked with saffron in the past, it gives a weird plasticky taste. You are removing the packaging, aren't you, Jane?
Just to start with,
I must be cooking it wrong, as it's such a popular ingredient, and people describe saffron as being a floral, fruity taste. Maybe I'm using too much. You shouldn't use more than a pound and a half per. Can I please have some advice on the best way to use saffron and how much I should be using? I mean, it's a fabulously expensive. It's more expensive than gold, I think, by weight.
It is the most expensive spice in the world, at £6,000 a kilo.
Oof.
Yeah, and in my restaurants, we use 4 kilos a year.
Wow!
Imagine. Yeah.
You spend more on saffron than my entire income.
but we do serve a lot of paella.
I can imagine.
But anyway, we should only use 0.1 gram per person. Okay, nice. So it's very little. If you think about it, it's a paella for 2 at home or for 4. If it's for 2, you use 0.2. What's that? So that's 60 £1.20.
Okay.
So it's not so bad, and it really makes a difference in the paella. And then, in regards to the flavor, I wouldn't describe the taste of saffron as floral and fruity at all.
Yeah.
It's a bit more smoky. And I just don't know how to put words to everything else, because it's such a singular taste.
It is.
That it is, I can only describe it as saffron. And so how to use it properly? Grind it if you can, with a pestle and a mortar. So you will extract as much as possible out of it, because it's so expensive. Make sure that you use it properly, and then you put it on your stock. 20 minutes in advance of you cooking whatever you are going to be cooking, if it's rice or maybe it's for another recipe such as chutney, or whatever it is that you're going to do. And that's how you will make the most of your saffron. And it shouldn't taste plasticky. Maybe you bought the wrong thing. I'm not sure.
So by my reckoning, you're knocking out 40,000 portions of paella a year, if that's how much saffron you're using.
Yes, that sounds about right.
That is one heck of a lot.
Yeah.
That's deeply impressive. Well, look, we've come to the end of the questions. Is there anything else in terms of Spanish cooking that you would urge people to try?
Oh, there is so much, but you can find that in my latest cookbook, which has been published just over a month ago. Spanish Made Simple. You can find it online, and you'll see there's plenty of vegan recipes on it as well. And discover it yourself. At the end, food is about discovery. That's what matters.
It absolutely is. And so where can people find you online?
Well, my name is Omar Allibhoy, and you can, and my nickname is the Spanish Chef, and my website is called like that. So if you go to it, there is plenty of recipes with ingredients, step by step, and all the videos on my YouTube channel, which is a really nice channel. And as well, if you want to buy Spanish ingredients like saffron, paprika, Spanish rice that we've talked about, and many others, you can do it on my website as well. There's plenty of Spanish goods in there, and we serve all mainland UK.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to go and open up a shopping cart right now.
Thanks very much.
That's it for this week's podcast. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram. It's veganlife_podcast, where we'll stick some extra bits and pieces on. You can, of course, subscribe to the magazine at veganlifemag.com, or you can buy it in a shop. Do please rate and review and share this podcast. It really, really helps us to keep moving up the charts. We really appreciate that. In the meantime, though, from me, Jake Yap, bye-bye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.